So welcome to BOML 211, Intro to Quantitative Analysis. I'll be your instructor for this course. My name is W. Vernon Murray. That's Walter Vernon Murray. And we're going to go through this course to give us an introduction to what quantitative analysis is all about. It's not meant to be a very technical, in-depth analysis of what quantitative analysis is. It's meant to be an introduction so that you could become familiar with the term and some of the characteristics of quantitative analysis. So our learning outcomes for this presentation, you will learn the definition of quantitative analysis and research. Also learn the main characteristics of quantitative analysis, and you will learn to recognize quantitative analysis in workplace scenarios, especially in your own workplace scenario. As you go through this section, think of how quantitative analysis impacts your workspace and your workflow, okay? So there are really two types of research methods, or two types of analytical methods: quantitative and there's qualitative. In the next class, we will kind of highlight what qualitative is, but in this course, we're going to be looking mostly at quantitative research or quantitative analysis. So some definitions. I'm going to give two definitions that you want to review and make sure you could grasp what these definitions are. So the first definition is quantitative research. Quantitative research or analysis is explaining phenomena by collecting numerical data that are analyzed using mathematically based methods. Pay close attention to this word right here: numerical data and statistics. All right? We should pay close attention to these two here: numerical data and statistics. All right. Let's look at another definition. Definition number 2. Quantitative methods emphasize objective measurements and statistical, again, look at that word, statistical, mathematical, or numerical. Again, pay close attention to those three concepts. So, quantitative methods emphasize objective measurements and statistical, mathematical, or numerical analysis of data collected through polls, questionnaires, surveys. It focuses on gathering, again, numerical data and then making generalizations across groups of people to explain a particular phenomenon. Both definitions, I wanted you to pay close attention to the concept or the ideas of statistical, mathematical, and numerical, because that is what defines quantitative analysis. All right, you with me so far? Good. Quantitative data, it's always a hard word to say. Quantitative data is information about quantities, right? Information about quantities. That makes sense because quantitative, quantities. That's where the term quantitative analysis originated from. It's because it's an analysis of quantities. Information that can be written down with numbers. That means if you wanted to boil it down to a very simple definition, quantitative analysis is analysis that measures quantities that can be written down with numbers. That's a very simple definition. Well, what are some examples? Well, examples of quantitative data are your height, your shoe size, or the length of your fingernails. See, quantitative data defines, whereas qualitative data, which we're again going to look at later on, describes. Okay, so defines versus describes. What quantitative data does, it defines a variable in terms of numbers, or it quantifies a variable. Now, we're going to look more at the term variable as it applies to analysis and research later, but to simply define a variable is, I'll give you an example. If you wanted to analyze how much would it cost in dollars to purchase 10 vehicles for your business. Let's say you're expanding your transportation and you were going to buy some new trucks or vans for your business. What would be the dollar cost for purchasing 10 new vehicles? The two variables would be cost and number of vehicles. As one variable goes up, the other one either goes up or goes down, right? So if you purchase more vehicles, you expect the dollar cost, which is another variable, to go up. So it's the two things that you're comparing. Those are called the variables. 3 key points on quantitative analysis. One, its main purpose is quantification of data. Like we said earlier, typically in terms of numbers, percentages, statistical data. It examines the relationship between variables, and the data is gathered typically using structured tools like assessments or surveys. Those are 3 key points of quantitative analysis that I'd like you to remember for this lecture. Here are some real-life examples of quantitative analysis. So you're driving down I-20 and you're probably breaking the speed limit, right? Cop pulls you over, gives you a ticket because you were going 20 miles over the speed limit. Now that is quantitative analysis, right? Because he's quantified how fast you were driving, expressed it in numbers, and compared it to the variable of the speed limit versus your actual speed. Okay, so that's quantitative analysis. I hope that you don't experience too many of those types of quantitative analysis, but I know I sure have. Another example, getting an annual physical, right? Again, the doctor uses various tests to give quantitative information about your height, your weight, your blood pressure, etc. Or how about asking for a raise on your job? That's quantitative analysis. If you request a raise without doing quantitative analysis, you are less likely to get that raise than if you did do some quantitative analysis. Because quantitative analysis gives you research, statistics, figures, percentages that you could then go to your boss and present a quantitative analysis of why you deserve to get a raise. Okay, those are good examples. Could you think of some other examples of real-life quantitative analysis in your workplace? Kind of jot them down. That may be one of our discussion questions later on. Here's what quantitative analysis do.
My name is Rajiv Manjoke, and I am a quantitative analyst.
My name is Elizabeth Tucker, and I'm a quantitative analyst. Quantitative analysts are involved in a lot of things at Google, working with teams like search, ads, YouTube, geo. We're often working with really complicated systems, and we're trying to understand how products are doing, where they're doing well, where they're not doing well, and what can be done to make them better.
I'd say about 40% of the time I'm doing some kind of coding. I'm implementing some algorithm I developed. 30% of the time I'm in meetings, brainstorming with someone. And the rest of the time is kind of split between either exploring and sanity checking data or coming up with algorithms.
I started working here because I was really interested in search and the problems in search, and I continue to find that fascinating to this day. We have a variety of backgrounds, and in fact we deliberately hire from a variety of backgrounds. My background is theoretical math, actually, not statistics. We deliberately seek different perspectives because Google is an international company and we look at analysis in over 100 languages. And so having a diverse perspective as possible is a wonderful thing.
As a quantitative analyst, the impact that you have is amplified just by the scale of Google, by the number of people that are using Google products.
When I look at Google search results, I do feel proud of the influence I've had. I often, though, find myself critical and thinking how much farther we have to go.
Being a quantitative analyst is like being a lifelong student of statistics.
We try to make sure people are working on problems they're passionate about. That way everyone's happy and analysts produce great work.
My teammates are very accomplished. They're very helpful. It's not a matter of let me do work so that I can do better than you. It's more let me do work so that I can help you. We're all on the same team.
Being a quantitative analyst at Google is so much fun. If you're a data person, having huge amounts of real data to play with and also having an impact on the world around you is such an appealing combination.
Here's some examples of quantitative analysis. In the mid-1990s, Taco Bell saved over $150 million using forecasting and scheduling quantitative analysis models. So you can see this has major impact for corporations and businesses. NBC increased revenues by $200 million, and Continental Airlines saved over $40 million using quantitative analysis models. So this is some powerful stuff here. And of course, the objective of this course is to help you see how you could implement some quantitative analysis in your workplace, in your life, to be more effective. So let's summarize. What is quantitative research or quantitative analysis? So in a nutshell, research that generates numerical data or information that can be converted into numbers. The goal or aim of quantitative analysis is to focus more in counting and classifying features and constructing statistical models and figures to explain what is observed. Right? And again, just some additional information here. It's not quite applicable to this course, but in research, it's highly recommended for the late phase of research because it gives the researcher a clearer picture of what to expect in his research. Data gathering instruments. Typically, in quantitative analysis, you use things like questionnaires, surveys, or measurements, and other equipment to collect data. Remember the illustration with the cop. His speed gun was actually a data gathering instrument to collect the speed at which you were driving, right? So that was actually quantitative analysis instruments. The type of data, again, we talked about is numbers and statistics. Again, this is if you're planning a research, here's some information on when to use quantitative research analysis. Just review this on your own. Wouldn't necessarily spend the time to go over it right now, but it's just good FYI for your benefit here.